Hi, welcome back to session 9.3, Linear Equation Applications. So here we're going to cover consecutive integers. So let's go in depth of the definition for consecutive. So consecutive means an unbroken or logical sequence. So a set of order items in a logical order. But in terms of math, integers in sequential order. So let's go over some examples for integers in sequential order. So 2 consecutive integers will be an example of 7 and 8. So 2 numbers next to each other in order. Another example will be 24 and 25. Now let's see about 3 consecutive integers. So an example for 3 consecutive integers would be 11, 12, and 13. So again, 3 numbers that are next to each other that are in order. Another example could be 65, 66, and 67. So let's talk about 4 consecutive integers. So 4 consecutive integers would be 72, 73, 74, and 75. Now that you have a better understanding for consecutive integers, let's take a look at the next example. So here it says 3 even consecutive integers. Notice how I bolded and underlined even. So the example that I'm using is 10, 12, and 14. So these 3 numbers are even and are in sequential order. Now if you take a closer look, notice how between 10 and 12 it count off by 2, and 12 and 14 count off by 2 also. So one thing you have to consider, unlike the first 3 examples for consecutive integers, when it comes to even consecutive integers, each number will be count off by 2 from the previous number. So 14 is 2 more than the previous number, which is 12, and 12 is 2 more than the previous number, which is 10. So I have one more example. Here it says 3 odd consecutive integers. And again, I also bolded and underlined odd. And the example I'm using is 33, 35, and 37. These 3 numbers are odd and in sequential order. It follows the same patterns as even consecutive integers. Each number counts off by 2 from the previous number. And it's the same rule that applies for any even or odd numbers that you use. So, for example, if I'm starting off with an even number, say 84, then I need to count off by 2. So the next number is 86, 88, and 90. Same rules apply to odd. So if I choose to use 61 as my beginning number, so for odd consecutive integers, I got to count by 2. So starting at 61, 63, 65, 67, 69, 71, and so on. So the rules you do have to remember when it comes to even consecutive integers and odd consecutive integers. However, for just consecutive integers, just like the first 3 examples, they will count by 1. But that's only the beginning part, which I will go more in depth in the next example. So let's take a look at the example for consecutive integers. In this example, it states the sum of 3 consecutive integers is 105. So first thing we're going to do is label out our integers. Integers A, B, C. So at the moment we have 3 unknowns. We do not know the value of A, B, C, so we need to figure it out. So let's come up with some examples for 3 consecutive integers. So here are my examples for 3 consecutive integers. In the first one I have 7, 8, and 9. In the second one I have 81, 82, 83. And the last one I have 45, 46, 47. So these 3 examples are examples of 3 consecutive integers. So 3 numbers in order next to each other. And let me rephrase that. These numbers are in sequential order. So one thing we need to look at is, using this example, we're going to help formulate a rule for ABC in order to solve this example. So we're going to take a look at one example. The one I highlighted is 81, 82, 83. It does not matter which one we use. Again, the rules that we're going to formulate for 3 consecutive integers, or in general, consecutive integers, will apply to the other examples, 7, 8, or 9, and 45, 46, 47. So if we assign that a is the smallest integer, then a is 81. Because if you look at these 3 examples, the first one, 7 is the smallest of 8 and 9, 81 is the smallest of 82 and 83, and 45 is the smallest of 46 and 47. So we're going to assign a as the smallest integer, so therefore a is 81. So how would you find b? Now, if you know that a is 81, then it's going to be pretty simple to find the value of b. So a equals 81, b is 82. We know that to get 82, we simply would rewrite it as 81 plus 1, or simply add 1 to 81 to get 82. Now, what is the reason for having this written out? Well, again, in the example, the sum of 3 consecutive integers is 105. However, we do not know the value for integers a, b, and c. So what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite a, b, and c into equations. So here, showing that a is 81, b is 82, in order to go from 81 to 82, we simply added 1 to 81 in order to get 82. Now, here I wrote b equal 81 plus 1. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have 81 going to replace with a. So what happened is I basically rewrite equation in terms of a. So I basically rewrote b in terms of a as an equation where now we have b equals a plus 1. So we're going to have that on the side. Again, I'm showing you where I'm going to get these equation form and how we're going to apply it to this example. Now, same smallest integer that we assigned, which is a is equals to 81. How do we find c? So we know that a is 81, therefore c is 83. So we know that in order to go from 81 to 83, we're simply going to add 2 to 81. So here, instead of c equals 83, I rewrote it as c equals 81 plus 2. Now, just like the previous step, for b, we're going to replace 81 with a. So therefore, we're going to have c equals a plus 2. So basically, we rewritten c in terms of a. So let me rephrase that again. We rewritten c as an equation in terms of a. So these equation that you see here, basically it's going to apply to all integers. It's going to be the same rules for all integers when it comes to consecutive integers. But in this example, we're going to be working with 3 consecutive integers. So let's go back to the example. Now, if a is the smallest integer, then can rewrite a, b, c as a, comma, a plus 1, comma, a plus 2. So let me review with these again. So I highlight a in yellow to show that these are the same. Now for b, which I highlight in green, I basically rewritten b in terms of a, which is a plus 1. And again, this came from the previous information that we reviewed for integer a, b, and c, especially when we use the example for 81, 82, and 83. Last, I highlight c in purple, and here we rewritten c as a plus 2, or also known as in terms of a plus 2. So what we're going to do is use this information and apply it to this example. So again, I separated A, B, C, so that way it's easy to organize and can visually see that A is A, B is A plus 1, and C is A plus 2. Now, the reason why I written the equation B as A plus 1 and C as A plus 2 is take a look at the next step that I've written here. Now, the sum of 3 consecutive integers is 105. So the linear equation would be A plus B plus C equals 105. Now, since you only have one equation, it is impossible to solve for 3 unknown variables at the same time when you have only one equation. So if you did not know the information that I have listed up here for A, B, C, then it will be impossible to solve for B and C, even A, without guessing and checking. And guessing and checking will take a lot of time in order to solve this problem, but using the rules that I have listed out here for A, B, C, this will save you a lot of time, and you do not have to spend so much time doing guess and check. So let's use the information I have here written in black and apply it to this equation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace B and C with the information that I have up here. So I space out A, B, and C and line it up with the information that I replaced. So for B, I replace it with A plus 1. For C, I replace it with A plus 2. Now, all the same color, what we're going to do, and again, the main reason I did this is now that instead of A plus C, here I have A plus 1, which I replaced with B, plus A plus 2, which I have replaced with C. Now we have one variable that we can use and help solve this equation. So I have, again, A plus 1 plus A plus 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to collect like terms. I'm going to collect all the A's, and then I'm going to combine all the numbers. So A plus A will be 3A, and then 1 plus 2 is 3. So I have 3A plus 3 equals 105. Now this has become easier to solve. So just like any linear equation, I'm going to cancel out the 3, subtract it on both sides. So next I'm going to have 3A equal to 102. And then to solve for A, I'm going to divide both sides by 3. So 102 divided by 3. So the answer for A is 34. So now that I know that A is 34, using this information, again, relating to what we have here, to solve for B and C, I'm just going to use this information. I'm going to add 1 to A, meaning add 1 to 34 to get my B, and I'm going to add 2 to my A, meaning I'm going to add 2 to 34 to get the answer for C, which I have right here. So B equals 34 plus 1 is 35. C is 34 plus 2, which is 36. You do not have to write out the work for B and C. This is just for your visual aid on how I got 35 and 36. So again, my answer is A is 34, B is 35, C is 36. Now, once you get the hang of this practice on how to find consecutive integers, you do want to pay close attention to the question. So I repeat, pay very close attention to the question, because sometimes here the sum of 3 consecutive integers is 105. That's simply asking what is the integers, meaning my answer would be 34, 35, 36. You might have some problems where it might ask you what is the lowest integer. So had it asked for the lowest integer, then my answer would have been 34. Had it asked what is the highest integer, then my final answer would have been 36, instead of writing out all these 3 numbers. So again, pay very close attention to the question. Here in the process, this will apply to whether you have 2 consecutive integers, 4 consecutive integers, 5 consecutive integers, and so on. However, if you're working with even or odd consecutive integers, remember that each integer count off by 2 from the previous number. So make sure you take note of that. If you are working with even or odd consecutive integers, then the rules are a bit different. So here we would have a plus 1, and here we would not have a plus 2. Here we're going to have different numbers, but once you get those numbers, it will be the same process. So be extra careful when working with odd and even integers, and pay close attention to the question.